Hello and welcome. This is take number 3 so far. Um, Trying to get some morning content recorded. Um, but yeah, so good morning once again. Hello and welcome. Today is Sunday, September 29th. It's about quarter till 8 in the morning. Basically just getting up. I've probably been up for about an hour. First thing I did when I woke up was take my chicken bone broth off the stove. I had it on there for about 20 hours. I started it at like 12 in the afternoon yesterday. Just now took it off, so that looks perfect. Bone broth is a beautiful color. I can already see it turning gelatinous as it sits in the freezer, so that's a good sign. The more gelatinous, I actually thought I messed up before when I made a super gelatinous bone broth, but that's actually what you want. That's the collagen holding it all together. So yeah, just made that bone broth and just decided to get started with my day. But yeah, man, let's just get straight into it. So I want to keep talking about culture. So last time I talked to you guys, I'm not sure if I'm going to post that video, but I did just yesterday actually talk about culture. And I talked about the Latin root meaning, which is to cultivate. I talked about how I view the start of culture in general. The start of anyone's culture is literally what they cultivate. So for example, in colder areas where plants aren't growing too well and they can't use plant fibers to make clothes, their culture would be more animal skins, animal hides. That'd be their culture. That's what they're cultivating. That's what they're producing. That's what the people living in that area value and know in our Prozac. That's what they consume as well. Let's do a more warmer climate where you have linen, or not linen, flaxseed growing. That's how you make linen. You make linen from the plant I can't speak. The plant fibers in flaxseed is where linen comes from. So let's say you live somewhere where flax is growing, a lot, so you can cultivate flax, which means you're cultivating linen, which means your culture is more so gonna center around linen-based clothing. Say you live somewhere with cotton, same thing. You're cultivating that cotton. Your culture is a more cotton-based culture, at least attire-wise. And that's just clothes. You look at food. Food is the same thing. Different cultures eat different foods because that's what's being cultivated in that area. Different things grow in different places, and different people cultivate different things depending on where you are. So that's the origins of culture, and I think that's important to know, especially as black people in America, because when we think of culture, I don't think we think of the right things. Music is also culture. But so for example, if all this physical stuff that we're creating is cultivating the ground, cultivating the earth, right? The earth is producing it, we're cultivating it, we're refining it, we're turning it into things more suitable to us, either making it easier to consume, either breaking it down to its finest parts and using its fibers as clothes, or whatever. That's cultivating the ground, though. Now, other parts of culture like music, that's cultivating your mind, right? And even still, different cultures have different music, because that's actually kind of a more abstract conversation. I don't want to get into that one yet. But culture is a beautiful thing, but we can't forget it means to cultivate. So as a black person in America, what is black culture? I'm gonna ask that again. I know I asked that yesterday, but as of right now, you ask the majority of people, people in America, people would think black culture was hip hop. Hip hop is the culture, is what they say. Isn't that what Quavo said on stage with Kamala when he was speaking for Kamala, when they had Meg shaking her ass, hotties for Harris that day? Pretty sure Quavo said, we the culture, or something like hip hop is the culture. And that really makes me angry. It makes me angrier than I even care to express. I don't even know where to start with that. hip hop isn't controlled by us. Black people don't control hip hop. So if hip hop is the culture, which it looks like it is, it's being sold to us as the culture, and we're buying it. That's what I said yesterday. I'm gonna repeat it again. Hip hop is being sold to us as the culture, and we're buying it. Not only are we buying it, we're buying it on a large, grand scale. We spend more money on things that are unnecessary than any other race in this country. It's a known fact that black people spend more on designer apparel than any other race, but we make less than any other race. What sense does that make? That's hip-hop culture. That's coming from hip-hop, right? We see our favorite rappers, our favorite artists, even athletes wearing all these chains and these designer clothes. Brands like Balenciaga, who just recently got exposed for pedophilic messaging, you know, and we know, and then I looked up what Balenciaga meant, like broke it down, Balenciaga or something. It says something about Baal worship. If y'all know who Baal is, or whatever his name is, Baal, I'm pretty sure that's that transgender deity that I actually thought it was Satan. It's the goat head. I'm not gonna do the symbolism, but goat head, he has breasts, but so he's transgender, breasts, and then male genitalia, and then he has a goat head. He has his hands up, one hand down. Anyway, that stuff got exposed, and people still wearing it because their favorite rappers are still wearing it, right? So yeah, not only that though, cars, right? You know, Mercedes-Benz and G-Wagons, all these, you know, name brand cars. Black people spend the most on that as well, more than any other race in this country, but we make less. I just find that insane. So basically, I want to talk about, what are we cultivating? Because as of right now, hip hop is simply cultivating wealth for everybody else besides us. Hip hop is cultivating generational wealth for everybody besides us. Every time y'all go out and buy a V-Lone shirt or whatever the fuck name brand is popping, that is cultivating generational wealth for the family that made V-Lone, for the family that made Gucci, for the family that made Louis, right? And I don't believe black people made any of those. And I do notice that there's been a push or a movement in supporting black brands, especially clothing lines. But you know, that conversation gets deeper, because where y'all getting these clothes from? Y'all not even cultivating these clothes. Y'all are buying that from a factory where it's not even owned by black people. So once again, we're not really, then we're kind of just upcharging a crazy amount to even sell the clothes, and then black people are being kind and supporting other black people in their brands, but they're spending top dollar for some shit that it's like, you know, we're not, the clothing, the design, the clothing design owner, the black person who created the brand, who is not creating his clothes, but he created the style behind it, he's not even seeing majority of the profit with what he's having to sell his clothes for, because he's buying his clothes from the main person who's not black at such a high rate. I'm assuming this is just a pretty general basic assumption, but I know that to be true because, or I assume that to be true because, who has a clothing factory? Who knows how to make clothes? Who even knows what clothes are made from, right? So it's like, you know, I have a lot of friends with clothing brands, and you know, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but I truly do feel that culture is the key, and I kind of just now started feeling that way. So for example, another tangent, my nonprofit, New World Harmony, its mission statement, not mission statement, whatever it be called, basically, it's not even I pulled a quote from a man named Bill Mollison. Rest in peace to him. He was one of the founders of permaculture. Permaculture is a gardening or agriculture thing. It's more about like I said, like cultivating the ground. It's permaculture. And just like agriculture means farming the ground, cultivating the ground. Permaculture is like agriculture, but it's a more holistic, sustainable view of it. Permaculture is basically mimicking nature. and cultivating the ground that way. So instead of like monoculture, like you see at any farm you drive by, where you see a whole field of corn or a whole field of beans or a whole field of this and that, that's monoculture. Mono, the prefix mono is one, implies one. Polyculture is you know, diverse species, but polyculture fits into permaculture. Permaculture means, that's a recently coined term. It means permanent culture or permanent cultivation. I think it means something else also. But anyway, I think it means something else, but I kind of forget. One more thing I think I'm forgetting. But anyway, you know, for my nonprofit, once I learned about Bill Mollison and permaculture, and a saying that he said was, all the world's problems can be solved in a garden. And I took that and put it on the nonprofit's main homepage. I said, at New World Harmony, we believe all the world's problems can be solved in a garden. Basically saying all the world's problems can be solved with and through permaculture, at least the physical problems like hunger, you know, thirst, community. Lots of problems can be solved in a garden, a permaculture garden specifically. And then just yesterday I realized, like, okay, permaculture is culture. So if culture is to cultivate, permaculture is to permanently cultivate. If permaculture is the solution, then culture in general is the solution. And you know, Black people love culture. Like, that's something that we say a lot. Like, oh, our culture. Oh, the culture. But we're saying it in like a perverted way, where we're I can't even speak. Where we are referring to hip hop and the things that hip hop is pushing. We're not really talking about cultivating anything. But yeah, culture is the solution in my eyes. Culture is the solution. So I say that to say, what are we going to cultivate as Black people? Black people are a special group of people. You know, it's like, I'm hard on my people. I'm hard on myself. I've always been, you know, my dad was hard on me. I'm sure I think my dad's hard on himself, actually, I could imagine my dad's inner dialogue, but with himself. So I assume my dad's hard on himself, like he's hard on me, like he was hard on me. My stepdad was hard on me. I'm hard on myself, like I said. And I think that's important, to be hard on yourself. But we got to think though, like, what are we cultivating? And I said that to say, so yeah, I'm hard on Black people because for, you know, as of recent, for the last year or so, maybe 2 years, I've been very disappointed with what's been going on with my race. I've been very disappointed with what I've been seeing out of hip-hop.
This service is deactivated. Please contact a customer service representative.
I done clicked the button on the whip. My fault, y'all. I'm gonna close that. It's been too much degeneracy. That's basically the whole point. Like I said, we're not cultivating anything, and we are cultivating something, but we're cultivating poison, right? It's like we're not even cultivating the good stuff. We're cultivating poison, and we're being manipulated all throughout the entire process. Like, it's hard to explain in a short time frame, but it's gonna be a long running conversation, and I think I do want to post these. But I guess I'm gonna end this one. We about at 15 minutes. So I'm gonna end this one off by saying, think about what you're cultivating. Consider actually physically cultivating something out of the ground. Consider making a garden. Consider growing plants. Consider learning about plants that are growing around you, so you can then cultivate them if you can't make your own garden. If you don't have the space or the means to make your own garden, things are always growing. You can always go cultivate something. We got to take our culture back. And I don't really, you know, I was about to say I don't know where to start, but I do know where to start. You start with the ground. You start with nature. Black people are nature people. You know, it's like so crazy that we live in this time now where Black people in America are seen as inside people. We're seen as city people. We're seen as party people, nightclub people. That's insane to me. Black people are nature people. I feel like that's always been the case. I feel like that's what we think when we think of melanated people in general. We imagine them outside until you get to black people. Then you imagine them inside. You imagine them with, you know, fancy, you know, you imagine a lot of things. But we gotta take our culture back. We gotta figure out what our culture is. We gotta recreate our culture. And there's a lot of things that's great about black culture currently. Hip hop is just really the only. Hip hop is the main bad. Hip hop is the main thing poisoning the rest of the culture. Because we got R&B, we got jazz. We brought so much actual pure good culture to the world, and for whatever reason, black people are the front runners and are always like in the spotlight when it comes to our culture. So like whatever our culture is pushed a lot heavier than I feel like other racist cultures. I'm not sure what that's about. I truly do believe black people are a bit more influential in that way for whatever reason. I think all races have their different skill sets, strengths and weaknesses, but I think black people are extremely influential for whatever reason. And when we're using our influence the way we're using it now, that's when we get the problems that we get. And, you know, I'm not, you know, this conversation really isn't about pointing fingers at what's the real reason behind it, who's really behind it. You know, we'll get into that conversation. But this conversation is about personal accountability. Once you know something's wrong, once you know better, you got to do better. You know it's not right to listen to Sexy Red talk about popping pussy and fucking people's baby dads. We know it's not right to listen to whatever male rappers talking about shooting niggas and selling drugs and moving bricks and talking about women in a degenerate way, right? We know that's not right. So if you know that's not right, if you know better, you gotta do better. There's lots of good music out there. It kind of just starts there. At least mentally it starts there. Then physically, get out in nature. That is our culture. You know, we can figure out the rest from there, but we have the foundation. The foundation is the literal foundation. The foundation is the ground. So go out and touch the ground. Go touch some grass. Go learn about some plants. Go do something. I don't know. We running over though. We at about 17 and a half minutes. I'm gonna cut this one short. We're gonna continue this conversation maybe later today, maybe tomorrow morning. We'll see. But health and harmony. Health and harmony.